and gentlemen, good morning from my side. I'm Gillian Arendse, and I will be your program director for this morning. So welcome to this event, this celebration, SAFARI-1 60 years, celebrating nuclear excellence. Today is not just about infrastructure, but it's about competence, it's about expertise, it's about skill, it's about determination. It's about people, it's about products, and it is about process. So for those of you sitting here, maybe you've got a cell phone. I'm not going to ask you to switch off your cell phone. I am going to ask you to just turn down the volume, because we want you to be active on social media. You would have seen that there is a Wi-Fi password that was displayed earlier. So if you are on any of the social media platforms, please do tag Nexa_Limited. If you are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and please do use any of the following hashtags: 60 years of nuclear excellence, SAFARI-1 turns 60, SAFARI-1 anniversary, nuclear science, nuclear innovation, advancing science, proudly South African. So just as we journey through the morning, a couple of things for you to remember when you think about SAFARI-1. SAFARI-1, the first research reactor on the African continent. It produces medical isotopes used to diagnose and treat cancer. SAFARI-1 is the source of research and innovation. SAFARI-1, through its research activities, is making an impact on both society and economics. It is known for its safety track record, and it's a contributor towards growing the employment rate. So that's why we are here. We are here to celebrate, and when we think about a celebration, we think about a party. So there will definitely be eating today, and hopefully you have all double-checked that you've got a wristband, because if you don't have a wristband, you will not be able to access the food. Because it's a birthday, there will be a cake that will be cut. And because it's a birthday, I am hoping that there will be some dancing. So hopefully you've put on your dancing shoes. Hopefully you are ready to celebrate with us. If you are in need of bathrooms, you will find that in the parking area. There's some ablution facilities available, and to our VIP guests just behind the VIP tent. So ladies and gentlemen, let's sit back as we get this show, this celebration on the road. And I'm going to invite Ms. Seneta Makubung to lead us as we sing the national anthem. If you would please rise and remain upstanding for the national anthem, and this will be led by Ms. Seneta Makubung. Right, so let's have the national anthem.
Nkosi sikeleli Afrika
Malupakalisu ongo wayo Israel mintanda zoyesu Nkosi sikelela ina lusapo wayo morena
Lucas Blow van onze
hemel, uit de diepte van ons zee, voor ons eeuwige gebergtes, waar die kransen antwoord geeft. Sounds the call to come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our land. Thank you very much. You may be seated. I would now like to call on Ms. Molugadi Kekana, Acting Group Executive Strategy and Business Enablement, to do the safety briefing for us, please.
Good morning, Minister. Good morning, Deputy Minister. Good morning, Chairperson, board members, our distinguished delegates, and the Nexa staff, and our other guests that we have invited. In terms of the safety protocol, it's very important that we understand the safety protocols when we are in a gathering like this. So there is ushering that is available. However, I'm going to take you through the evacuation process. Our assembly point in case of an emergency will be where you saw the fire engine and an ambulance. That is where we will evacuate to. There will be ushering that will be available, especially for our VIP guests, to make sure that we exit in an orderly fashion. For those that have parked their cars on site, you will also be redirected to get your vehicles, unless if the emergency situation is on site, there will be transportation that will be made available to evacuate us to the appropriate assembly points depending on the extent of the emergency. In terms of bathroom facilities, as directed by the program director, we've got our VIP area where we have bathrooms behind the VIP tent, and for the rest of us, there are bathrooms, ample facilities at the bottom parking area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kekana. Now, I want you to quickly turn to the person sitting next to you. Look that person in the eye and say, I think you might think that you are getting hot, but you look absolutely amazing. Tell that person that you are so happy that they decided to sit next to you as we celebrate 60 years of Nexa. All right, so now that we've all cooled down a little bit, I realize that this is not necessarily the best venue on a day like this, but we are not here, and this is not about you. This is about celebration. This is about us getting together and understanding that every one of us, each little unique way, we are making a contribution to advance science and to contribute to the betterment of society. So we're going to formally start our program. As I said, we have a couple of speeches to go through. There's a beautiful lunch waiting for you, and I guarantee you, you're going to love the entertainment that we've got lined up for you later on. I'm sure you guys will want to dance. But before we get to that, let's first get through our formalities. So it's now my task to introduce to you the person who will do the official word of welcome. So he holds a Bachelor in Science Honours in Mechanical Engineering, and he's worked in nuclear engineering since the 80s and was at some point in his life appointed as the Technical Support Manager at Kuberg in the 90s. He headed up the Pebblebed Modular Reactor project, and as you would remember, an area in which South Africa was a world leader. With more than 33 years of experience at Eskom, he is no stranger to the nuclear industry. In actual fact, people refer to him as a non-compromising leader who gets things done. Ladies and gentlemen, your hands and mine as we welcome to the podium the chairperson of the Nexa board, the one, the only, Mr. David Nichols.
I don't know if that turning to the person on your left and saying, "I'm colder," helped. It didn't with me, although thank you for the fan. Greetings to the Minister of Electricity and Energy. I've got that right way around, have I, Minister? Thank you, just checking. Dr. Ramakopa, Deputy Minister, Ms. Graham-Marie, His Excellency, the Ambassador, People's Republic of China, Mr. Mingo, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy, Ms. Nkosi Mavana, and the members of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy, members of the Board of Nexa, the Group CEO of the Eskom of South Africa's Nuclear Energy Corporation, Mr. Lusa Tabashi, and the Executive Committee, members of SOC boards and Chief Executive Officers, Interim DG of Electricity and Energy Ministry, Mr. Subesh Pillay, the DDG Nuclear Energy Regulation and Management at the Department of Mineral Energies, Resources and Energy, Mr. Zimambambo. And I will here just stop quickly and say, I am confused whether I'm talking to DMRE or DEE, and I apologize if I confuse it. So all protocol observed, if I got them wrong, I apologize, Minister. I'm not sure if this week or next week it changes. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, representatives from government, industry and international partners, but more importantly, the delegates of the day, the employees of the Nexa Group. It is absolutely wonderful to sit here and see such a large team. I'm just concerned who's left on site running things. Shouldn't I ask that question? It is my great honor to be part of the celebrating this great milestone event, the 60th anniversary of the SAFARI-1 research reactor. I give honor, I'm now reading my notes and I'll come back in a second, to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy and our shareholder, as well as the National Nuclear Regulator, who have kept us on the check for 6 decades and have supported SAFARI-1's mandate. I will, of course, mention that if I have to use all the right dates, I have to go back on licensing to Atomic Energy Board Licensing Branch, Atomic Energy Corporation Licensing Branch, the Council for Nuclear Safety, and only then the NNR. And I'm not sure if the DMRE is the right one, because we started out, in my knowledge, of DMEA, and we've changed names. And my sympathy to the Minister, because I think he's going to have a name change if he isn't careful in a few months' time, for some reason we don't know about yet. Today we acknowledge the Nexa Group scientists, engineers and operational teams who have ensured the reactor's success in its safe operation. Local and international partners have collaborated during the research and development initiatives. This has culminated in 60 years of nuclear excellence, which is highly respected across the globe. And I'm always very proud to say that I think SAFARI is, I'm told, the most productive and best operating research reactor on Earth, despite being not the youngest. The Nexa board extend a heartfelt thanks to you all, past and present staff, who have dedicated their expertise to SAFARI-1. We also appreciate the Nexa leadership over the decades who have kept SAFARI-1 running efficiently without any major incidents. As the board of directors, we only come to Nexa when required to, but on a daily basis, the executive are steering the ship. 60 years ago, when SAFARI-1 was commissioned, few could have predicted the pivotal role it would play in shaping South Africa's nuclear landscape. Over the decades, it's evolved into a cornerstone of nuclear research, providing life-saving medical isotopes, driving industrial development, and advancing scientific discovery. Beyond medicine, SAFARI-1 has played a crucial role in neutron research and the training of young scientists and engineers. It's been a hub of knowledge, equipping future generations with skills and expertise needed to take nuclear science into a new era. This research reactor not only contributed to South Africa's economic and industrial growth, but has also placed our country on the global stage as a trusted leader in nuclear research. As we stand here today, we do so with immense pride, knowing that we're part of something truly remarkable. SAFARI-1 has given us 60 years of excellence. It's up to us to ensure the legacy continues to shine brightly into the future. While SAFARI-1 gracefully moves beyond its 60th anniversary, South Africa can be justly proud of the achievement, which has demonstrated our country's capacity to cooperate, maintain, and refurbish nuclear installation of this complexity. South Africa remains committed to the peaceful use of nuclear technology. Today, we celebrate not just the past 60 years of SAFARI-1, but the future of nuclear research in South Africa. And I think it's important, earlier said by the Minister of the previous thing, that we have, what is really important to us is we've just got approval, for those who haven't heard it and if they're deaf, to 1.2 billion rand for the next 3 years for the initial funding of the multipurpose reactor to replace or to assist SAFARI going forward. And I will just comment to the Nexa people that it is our job to make sure our money is spent wisely and successfully, and we don't have any embarrassments in the process. And so may our commitment to innovation and excellence continue for many more decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nichols. Now, I don't know, I do know that I kind of look older than what I really am, but I promise you I was not there in 1965. So join me as we watch the screen to just capture the history of SAFARI-1 over the past 60 years.
From the million ways in which the energy of the atom can be harnessed, to the single-minded passion to make an impact on the world. From making a difference for its high utilization, quality research and innovation that reaches all around the globe. SAFARI-1, celebrating 60 years of nuclear excellence. Nexa, we're in your world.
So as I said, we are here to celebrate, and if you are an employee of Nexa, I would almost want to encourage you to just tap yourself on the shoulder and to say, I am part of this. I am part of this legacy, and I am contributing to the advancement of science on a daily basis. So allow me to introduce our next speaker to you. He's a professional engineer with more than 20 years of technical and leadership experience in the nuclear industry. He has acquired vast global nuclear experience from leading international nuclear organizations such as the Electric Power Research Institute, the World Association of Nuclear Operations, and the International Atomic Energy Agency through participation in various energy and nuclear-related programs and as a participant in global panel discussions. In January 2021, he was appointed as the Group Chief Executive Officer of the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation and tasked with setting up and overseeing a turnaround strategy that focuses on stabilization and profitability. Ladies and gents, not just for today, but for many days to come, your hands and mine for the Group Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Loyiso Chabashi.
Good, feels like an afternoon. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is certainly a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Program Director. Greetings to the Honorable Minister, Dr. Hosienzo Ramokgopa, Deputy Minister, Ms. Samantha Graham-Murray, to the Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Ms. Nonkosi Mvana, together with the parliamentarians, the Portfolio Committee members. Greetings. Excellencies, we've got the delegation from the Chinese Embassy and the Ministry. We also have the Executive Mayor in our midst, representing the Premier, I'm told. Greetings to you too. Members of our board of NEXA, Excellencies, together with our Chairperson, Mr. Nichols. Captains of industry, my colleagues who are seated here in front of me, thank you for heeding the call in coming across to celebrate this momentous day with us today. We also have the most important people, extreme left and extreme right, which is the people who make this place to be this buzzing atmosphere, a place that we can be proud of today, and this is to the NEXA employees. I also take note of the Director Generals and Deputy Director Generals. Ladies and gentlemen, the list is endless in terms of greeting people. I greet everyone. If I didn't mention you by name, I apologize profusely up front. On this day, which is the day of celebrating the 60 years of nuclear excellence, I need to state up front that NEXA is more than 60 years old, but SAFARI is 60 years old this month. NEXA was established in 1948, so it's well in its mid-70s, heading towards 80s. So this country has got experience on nuclear for close to 80 years. We've been at the leading front, but SAFARI today that we are talking about takes us to that point which says, let us mark this significant moment. South Africa took a bold decision way in the past to nurture and beneficiate our materials. One of them was the uranium that is used in our reactor. This was against the background of the 1940s, where the world was scrambling for precious metals in the Witwatersrand in the form of gold, and uranium became one of those resources that got to be harnessed. And as you might know, NEXA started off as an atomic energy board in 1948. Fast forward in the 80s, became the Atomic Energy Corporation, and now NEXA since 1999. Huge legacy behind us. But in its process and development, there was a very deliberate effort to ensure that we utilize our skills as we go forward. The question that we always get posed with on a daily basis is the two juxtaposed questions of the what and the how. The what is very clear, as we can see today. We are celebrating SAFARI. That's what the event is all about. But the how is, how did we get here? As we are here, what is it that puts us at the podium and ensure that we can be proud of ourselves in the global stage? First of all, I'll put it to the courage, deliberate, conscious courage of leadership to go the nuclear route when nuclear was not popular at the time. We are on the shoulders of those giants that made those decisions, and we've taken it further. We didn't just get onto the shoulders and sit there. We've taken it further in terms of the work that we have done, especially in the democratic dispensation. I want to believe that there was meticulous planning when the reactor was being built from 1960 to 1965 on commissioning. Those timelines, if you think about today, it takes much longer to build, but it talks to planning because those things just don't happen overnight and by themselves. Skills development was at the center of everything. I always state this when people complain about skills and resources, that skills will always follow the energy. Skills will follow projects. So at the time of Atomic Energy Board and the SAFARI construction, there was not much of nuclear skill, but it was built along the way. So we need to make more decisions. We need to make deliberate effort in building more entities like this. Skills will follow. We met this morning young children who want to be civil engineers. I don't know whether he was just appeasing the minister, but we accept we need more civil engineers, others environmental scientists. There is a big community and a big pipeline that is coming out there. And our effort is to ensure that we harness that energy, make them part of this prestigious nuclear family that we are proud to talk about today. At the time, I want to believe that how we got here is that we have dedicated staff at NECSA. People who've never let go, despite the difficulties of the times, even before some of us joined this organization. There are people who stood fast and stood strong and ensured that this company will stand strong and continue to influence the globe. And also, at the center of everything nuclear is the international collaborations. Those are very important because you can't do it alone in the nuclear business. If you try, you will fail, and you'll fail the rest of the industry. We've seen it with incidents and accidents across the globe that we need to continue on a peer-reviewed, collaborative environment to ensure that the whole world grows together at the same pace. We always say, we utilize one of the slogans when we travel abroad about nuclear and say, this is like one of our trade unions which says, an injury to one is an injury to all. Because an injury or an accident in South Africa is an accident in the USA, an accident in the USA is an accident in Egypt, etc., etc. So we need to ensure that we don't have accidents in this nuclear business. There might be some incidents because we operate in a factory. So that becomes important as we move forward. As custodians of this prestigious organization, we've been given the responsibility by the South Africans through the Nuclear Energy Act of 1999 to look after this asset. It is good to report back to the public and say, here we are, 60 years and counting. And we are still looking beyond 60 years going forward. As we were building up towards this event, we had several engagements with our staff. We had staff session on Tuesday, huge turnout like we're seeing today. We had a webinar where people told us how they've seen this organization evolve. Very good stories towards creating this organization. At times, like I said, the path was not clear, but the scientists and the engineers and everyone in this installation made it work and moved forward. There was a point, I'm told, closure was imminent. This is 1995, where there was a council or a commission on SAFARI. The intent was to close it, but scientists and engineers and everyone else on site came together, put forward a strategic document that sees NECSA today as a commercial entity. So this commercialization effort never just happened by itself. There were difficult moments that needed to see NECSA survive out of the difficult moment and also the austerity measures that we had seen. So it gave rise to entities like a subsidiary that we have that sells nuclear isotopes local and abroad, Nuclear Technology Products, NTP, which is doing a very good job in representing us out there. But as we go forward with SAFARI, it would be amiss if I did not talk about what we do, just to give you a flavor. I know the scientists on the 18th took us about 3 hours telling us what this SAFARI does. At the heart and the core of it is the research and development. And as we know, research and development can go in two ways. One is pure research that goes into publishing papers and articles, creating those master's students, PhDs, as well as postdoctoral students. However, there's an aspect of commercializing the intellectual property that we develop through our research, which is what sees us having entities like PELCHEM, NTP, and many other small areas that we are excelling in the global sphere. So that becomes important, basic research as well as commercial outputs and spin-offs. We also do neutron diffraction using some instruments to characterize the materials. We do irradiation of target plates to get the isotopes that are needed in medical treatment and detection of cancer. And also we use these isotopes for industrial applications out there for equipment testing. As part of that also, we do archaeological, we did some work with Mrs. Pless sculpture back in the days, archaeological dating, which means we also form part of the archaeology work that happens. We're also involved in a project with vets on rhino anti-poaching, where we would put some isotopes that are not harmful to the rhinos so that they can detect the horns if they do escape our borders through our airports. So NECSA was involved in that work with vets going forward. We do also what we call silicone doping, which is irradiation of materials or metals that are used in our cell phones, in our TV screens, all things electronic. We irradiate those materials, about 20 tons of those a year, and we ship those to many of these electronic companies around the world. Skills development is at the heart of everything. You could have all the assets you want, but if you don't have people, you're as good as having nothing. So our people have really been our fundamental asset in growing us going forward. Celebrating this milestone, I know it's a reflective moment. However, as we reflect and look backwards, if we take the words of our statesman, Mr. Nelson Mandela, is that as you summit a hill, you start to see how many more hills there are to summit. So as we finish the 60 years this week, well, we finished it last week on Tuesday, as we celebrate today, we are looking at the work that we've done. We are proud of our achievements that we've achieved up to date, placing us onto the global map. But it doesn't stop there. What do we do with the legacy that we are celebrating today? Courageously, we are moving forward with doing life extension of this asset. The license of this asset of Safari that we are celebrating today expires in December 2030. However, we are working through the National Nuclear Regulator to extend the life of this plant for another decade or so, if not more, because our engineers and scientists and everyone around the site have done the fundamental work to ensure that this asset is well maintained and it can take us well into the future. We're also looking at future replacement and dovetailing, which is a multi-purpose reactor that Mr. Nichols mentioned about the funding that we got. We're at the initial stages of that. That is the legacy that we are deliberate about, that we want to leave behind as we move on with our lives. My biggest gratitude really goes to the men and women on my left and right, which is the Nexa employees, supported ably by the people right in front of me, the shareholder representatives, our boards, our key stakeholders. It is very important to know that it takes all to tango, and I think we're going to tango very well into the future. SAFARI-1 as a foundation of nuclear excellence really gives us a sense of pride, and we've got all the reasons today to be proud of. Let us march forthwith, determined to leave a legacy and that future generations shall be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jabashe. As you were talking, these images come to mind that we might feel today that we are brilliant, but we realize that we appear brilliant because we are standing on the shoulders of giants, those who have gone before us. And then for the youngsters in the audience, I think you are saying, a mind once stretched never returns to its original size. So may we continue to stretch the minds of young people so that they will be willing to take up these opportunities that you have spoken about so eloquently. It's now my privilege to invite to the podium the Deputy Director General for Nuclear Energy and Regulation and Management at the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy, Mr. Zizamele Mbambo, to share a couple of words and remarks.
Program Director, Honorable Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Kgotsienso Ramokgopa, Deputy Minister, Ms. Samantha Graham-Maree, Honorable Members of Parliament and the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy, Chairpersons of the boards, Chief Executive Officers, Deputy Director Generals and Deputy Director Generals, mayors, senior managers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me to start by expressing our gratitude to the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NECSA, that continues to develop, utilize, and manage nuclear technology for national socio-economic development, through, amongst others, the production and global supply of quality radiation-based products, services including industrial and medical radioisotopes. The Department of Electricity and Energy wishes to congratulate NECSA on the achievement of this milestone, the 60th anniversary of the SAFARI-1 research reactor. The department will continue to support NECSA in its endeavors to conduct nuclear research and development as enshrined in its founding legislation, the Nuclear Energy Act of 1999, Act 46 of 1999, which includes the operation and maintenance of SAFARI-1 research reactor. It is worth noting that South African nuclear program is one of the earliest on record. In the 1950s, as a byproduct of its booming gold mining industry, South Africa was a uranium exporter that helped build nuclear programs in other countries. It may be a surprise to some that South Africa is one of the founder members of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IEA, alongside with other countries such as the United States of America, United Kingdom, Russia, Russian Federation, and France. South Africa currently has a permanent seat in the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, a position that is very strategic and one that we need to maintain through growing our national nuclear infrastructure. Following the famous Atoms for Peace speech by the then President of the United States, President Eisenhower, a global peaceful use of a nuclear initiative was established, which led to South Africa acquiring a research reactor from the United States in 1965. This research reactor is turning 60 years today. Hence, we are gathered here today to celebrate its journey to place South Africa in a global nuclear research landscape. We are the only country in the world that has built and voluntarily relinquished its nuclear weapons in 1989. Following that, we committed ourselves to the IEA Non-Proliferation Treaty in 1991, which prevents the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology. And the country further inspired the regional treaty in Africa called the Pelindaba Treaty, basically rendering the entire continent a nuclear weapons-free zone, and is currently hosting the African Commission on Nuclear Energy, which promotes the peaceful application of nuclear science and technology. During the same year, in 1991, the country acceded to the Safeguards Agreement with the IEA, followed by the additional protocol in 2002. Since July 2015, South Africa started implementing the integrated safeguards after the IEA drew a conclusion of the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities. This gives assurance that South Africa is committed to utilize nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. It was deemed important for the nuclear program to be maintained even in the new democratic dispensation, with the Energy White Paper of 1998 leading to the revised legislation of the 1999 Nuclear Energy Act, which establishes NECSA as a research and development institute. Later in 2008, a nuclear energy policy was promulgated to clearly define the roles and responsibilities of every stakeholder. The nuclear energy policy provides a strategic framework for the development and the regulation of South Africa's nuclear energy program. The policy promotes the peaceful use of nuclear energy whilst ensuring that uranium mining, fuel cycle processes, and reactor technologies are developed in a safe and sustainable and transparent manner. The long-term vision is to achieve self-sufficiency in nuclear fuel cycle capabilities subject to feasibility assessments. Ladies and gentlemen, mindful of the aging SAFARI-1, the department has long been working diligently with NECSA and other relevant stakeholders such as the Department of Science and Innovation, Trade, Industry and Competition through a ministerial task team on multipurpose reactor, the MPR, to bring on board a new reactor beyond 2030. The department chairs this task team, and since its inception in 2019, a few milestones have been reached. These include the completion of the project initiation, pre-feasibility report, both of which were tabled at Cabinet and gained its support. In 2024, the task team completed the feasibility report, which was independently gateway reviewed, rendering the MPR project shovel-ready in terms of the first major investment decisions to be made. It is upon this basis that NECSA, working with the department, were able to solicit seed funding through Budget Facility Infrastructure Program of the National Treasury. The next step underway is to register the project as a strategic integrated project, the SIPs, under the Infrastructure South Africa. This process is at an advanced stage of the intermediate business case. The department also supported the motivation to the Ministers of Finance and Electricity and Energy for approval of the various stages in the MPR project in terms of the requirements of the Section 14 of the Nuclear Energy Act. This project will ensure that South Africa remains amongst the top 4 global radioisotope producers, as well as ensuring continuation of research and development on nuclear technology. This places NECSA on the path to continue providing much-needed radioisotope for medical and industrial applications, execution of research through beamlines, and the creation of jobs which are essential for our economy. Congratulations to the NECSA team. Let us continue to celebrate the successes through even events of this nature, to remind ourselves that we are still on a good path with many positive outcomes. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mbambo. Thank you for reminding us of the need to be locally, but also relevant on the African continent, then of course to be globally competitive. Now, I know some of you are sitting here and the family back home maybe do not believe that you are really at work. So we are actually live streaming on the YouTube channel of NECSA space, and then capital letter ZA. So if you want to share that information with family at home, who knows, maybe there's a pan in the camera and they can actually see you. And while you are busy on your phone, remember our hashtags that you can use. Hashtag 60 years of nuclear excellence. SAFARI-1 turns 60, or SAFARI-1 anniversary, or hashtag nuclear science, hashtag nuclear innovation, hashtag advancing science, hashtag clean energy, or hashtag proudly South African. Now, obviously, lots of people wanted to be here, but they could not be here with us in person, and therefore we have invited some of them to share some messages of congratulations via video. So we're going to be sharing 2 of these messages. The one is coming from the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Director General there, Mr. Mariano Grossi, and the second one from the World Nuclear Association, Director General Dr. Leon. So please join me as we watch the screens and as we listen to the messages of congratulations.
Your Excellency, esteemed guests and colleagues, it is a pleasure to join you to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the SAFARI-1 research reactor. On behalf of the International Atomic Energy Agency, I extend my congratulations to the people of South Africa, the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, and all those who have contributed to this milestone. In research, development, and innovation, South Africa has played an important role in nuclear science and technology for much more than half a century. For many years, it has been the only African country to operate a nuclear power plant. Now, other countries on the continent are also looking to nuclear power, including through small modular reactors. The IAEA is a key partner in their journey. We are supporting South Africa during its G20 presidency, contributing to initiatives that advance clean energy transitions in Africa and beyond. Today, I can confidently say that we are witnessing a return to realism. All over the world, people again are grasping nuclear power's benefits to energy security and the environment. Of course, nuclear science goes well beyond energy. SAFARI-1 has been a cornerstone of nuclear research. Over 6 decades, it has logged more than 4 million megawatt hours, producing medical isotopes which are vital for the diagnosis and the treatment of cancer. It is one of 4 major global suppliers of the main medical radioisotope molybdenum-99. With the use of nuclear material comes a responsibility to safety, to security, and safeguards. I commend South Africa's decision to convert SAFARI-1 so that it is now fueled by low-enriched uranium. The shift away from high-enriched uranium has strengthened nuclear security and reduced proliferation risks. Ladies and gentlemen, the IAEA remains steadfast in assisting countries across Africa in making the most of nuclear science and technology. We work with African nations through our coordinated research programs, technical cooperation, and training initiatives. Our safety standards and security guidance are relied upon across the globe. IAEA initiatives like Rays of Hope, Atoms for Food, Zoonotic Disease Integrated Action, or Zodiac, and Nutec Plastics assist countries in fighting deadly diseases, in improving agricultural practices and crop yields, in tackling pollution and managing their precious water resources. Our knowledge-sharing opportunities and peer reviews help to ensure that research reactors, like SAFARI, across the continent continue to provide critical benefits to their communities. South Africa is not only a beneficiary, but through its knowledge and experience, South Africa is also an important partner in supporting other countries. It is a role model and a champion. For example, last year, the Nuclear Medicine Research Infrastructure Facility at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital became an IAEA Rays of Hope Anchor Center, a hub of excellence for the entire region. As we mark today's occasion, I commend all those who have been part of South Africa's journey to harness the life-affirming power of nuclear science and technology, from researchers and engineers to policymakers, regulators, and nuclear professionals. On behalf of the IAEA, I extend to you my best wishes for the continued growth of South Africa's nuclear sector. May SAFARI-1 inspire generations of scientists, innovators, and leaders for years to come. And may South Africa's plans for future nuclear power reactors and nuclear research reactors find success and fulfillment. As you work towards those goals, let me close by promising that you can count on the IAEA as your partner in the pursuit of a peaceful and prosperous future for all.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, friends all of a clean energy future. My name is Sama Bilbao Leon, and I am Director General of World Nuclear Association. And today, it is truly an honor to join you in celebrating 60 years of nuclear excellence in South Africa with the SAFARI-1 research reactor. South Africa has been a pioneer in the nuclear field with over 75 years of expertise in research, development, innovation, and technology applications. As one of the founding members of the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Africa's contribution to the global nuclear community are truly remarkable. SAFARI-1, the first research reactor on the African continent, has been at the heart of all these contributions. Since its commissioning on March 18, 1965, SAFARI-1 has operated with exemplary safety and excellent performance, with over 300 operational days per year and logging over 4 million megawatts-hour without incident. These milestones are truly a testament to the dedication and the expertise of everyone at NEXA, at SAFARI-1, and the international South African nuclear ecosystem, including, of course, the regulators. SAFARI-1's impact to socioeconomic development and human well-being is profound, saving up to 10 million lives in over 60 countries. It is one of only 10 reactors globally that provides Moly-99, which is used to create technetium-99m, the vital medical isotope employed in millions of nuclear medical procedures globally, both for diagnosis and cancer treatment. Today, SAFARI-1 and its more than 1,500 staff stand as a cornerstone of South Africa's nuclear research capabilities, and certainly at the heart of NEXAS, the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. The reactor has made significant strides in obviously radioisotope production, but also in research and development and international collaborations, including non-destructive testing for industries such as aerospace and manufacturing, as well as fuel and material testing for advanced fuels and structural reactor materials. At the same time, this know-how, this strong safety culture, this security culture and overall operating experience are a driving force that will continue to support the South African nuclear sector. Energy demand at a global level continues to increase because it is an essential enabler for prosperity, growth, and quality of life. And this is particularly important in Africa, where we still have 600 million people with zero access to energy. Nuclear energy can be a game changer in Africa, providing abundant, affordable, 24/7 carbon-free energy that will be able to propel the entire economy forward. Industry, manufacturing, commerce, access to health, education, fresh water, nutritious food, sanitation for all Africans and for all South Africans. So, as the world and South Africa gets ready to triple global nuclear capacity by 2050 and to end energy poverty much, much sooner than that, the 60th anniversary of SAFARI-1 is a strong and robust foundation for nuclear energy growth in South Africa and the rest of Africa. So on behalf of World Nuclear Association and the global nuclear industry, I extend our heartfelt congratulations to SAFARI-1 and NEXA. So as you celebrate this important milestone, we want to join you and share your joy and your pride and wish you continued success and sustained excellence in the years to come. So happy 60th anniversary, SAFARI-1.
Wow, what powerful feedback to get from international stakeholders. And hopefully you all sit here and you realize that sometimes when we do what we do and we do it well, the rest of the world can't help but pay attention. So may you continue to rise, may you continue to grow. So we have heard from the international people, but now we need to hear from one of our own. So he was born, he grew up, and today he's here. By training, he's a civil engineer and entered formal politics as a ward councillor for the African National Congress in Tshwane between 2000 and 2005. After several years running public and private entities, he turned to politics in November 2010 when he was elected as the mayor of Tshwane. He was mayor actually from 2010 up until 2016 and a member of the Executive Council in the Gauteng provincial government in 2019. In March 2023, in the 6th administration, he started serving as the Minister of Electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, your hands and mine for the current Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Kgotsienso Ramakgoba.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me take the opportunity to extend my warm and sincere greetings to the DM of Energy and Electricity, Samantha Graham-Murray, the members of the Portfolio Committee on Energy and Electricity, led by Honorable Mvana. I know that they are going to correct me outside and say electricity and energy. Of course, it's gazetted that way. I'm making the case in government to say that electricity is an energy carrier. So you first have an energy source, then you convert it into electricity. So it's a misnomer to say electricity and energy, but we'll correct that. I think it's a scientific disposition. I can make this point because I'm advised that I'm in the midst of scientists. I was making the point earlier on that when I come back here in the next 3 to 4 years, I was making the point to the chair of the board, Mr. Nicholson, and also to the group CEO, Loiso, that when I get to greet the average staff members or employees of NEXA, I want to get to a point in the next 5 years where every 5th person I greet is a PhD holder in nuclear science. So the place must feel like a hospital. Just the number of PhDs holders. I'm making that point, saying PhD holders must feel like a hospital. When I attained my PhD, and I was wearing a red gown, my mother was flabbergasted. My mother never had an encounter with a classroom. The only encounter she had with a classroom is when she was going for a parents' meeting. So she couldn't reconcile, why are you wearing a red thing, not a white gown? And his expectation is that anyone who's a doctor is a medical doctor. So she was making the point, aksato yang age ngwanaka le buang ka dingala ke a bangala o tlo gona on tlhokomela ke DM o tlo sata ka pele a ntsa lebeletse nna so. For those who didn't understand what I was saying, I was making the point that it's great to be here. But Lanjambi says alele na man ke tsere batho ba go thogola Lanjambi says alele but also just to acknowledge the presence of Excellencies ambassadors who are here. I know that we have noted the ambassador of the People's Republic of China and others who are here, I'm sure, during the course of the day, we're in person. The chairperson of the board and the board members that are present here, just to say thank you very much to Dave and the team. I think they've executed a monumental feat. I mean, when they came to NEXA, it was going through governance turmoil. And I think the board is doing everything possible, working with the able and competent executive management led by Loiso, they are getting Nexa on the right track. From a governance perspective, I'll say one or two things about the scientific frontiers. But just to say, Dave, thank you very much. Someone who comes with a wealth of experience, they've given you is a truncated resume, someone who has contributed immensely to the field of electricity, the field of energy, and the field of science in this country, and has volunteered together with many other men and women who are part of the Nexa board to come and serve the country. Thank you very much, Dave, and the board members for your patriotism and directing Nexa in the right direction. We must get the governance right so that the public narrative is positive, and we'll show them what we can achieve on the scientific front. And to Loiso, thank you very much. I always say the best measure of the performance of a CEO is during occasions of this nature. So when you are invited to take the podium, people were ululating, were happy. Oh, when is the payday? It's today. Oh, no. Then they might be responding to a different, I might be misinterpreting what the excitement was about. No, it's fine, but still, I was just saying, if you want to get the right temperature on the performance of a CEO outside the reports that you give to the shareholder, what we get to present in Parliament, is the popularity amongst your peers and those that you lead. And from the reception, I think it means that you are a popular candidate here. And I want to tell you, if you want to remain popular, just step away from politics. It's not nice that side. Don't misinterpret the excitement and want to be a ward councillor. They will obliterate you that side. Just remain here. And also the Mr. Mbambo, the DDG responsible for nuclear, and the team from the nuclear branch of government. I'm advised that we also have MECs. We also have mayors. Thank you very much, colleagues, for joining us today. I think it's just a reaffirmation of the fact that we are a joined-up government. And you know, in government speak, we talk about the district development model. And I think an SOE like Nexa represent what we call a center of excellence. So that's why you have a concentration of your best skills. Those of you who have studied the issues around the Asian tigers, I think a point gets to be made how these countries, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, gets to achieve exceptional levels of development, unprecedented in the recorded history of sovereign nations, was on the back of, amongst others, the investment in what they call the concentration of centers of excellence, what you and I, in the nomenclature of South African politics, we refer to as the SOEs. And I think Nexa is at the cutting edge of that. So thank you very much to Loiso and the team for the excellent work. But also, most importantly, thank you very much to all of you here present. Because I think there has to be an appreciation of the men and women who toil on a daily basis to make this organization succeed. So we lament every time when SOEs are going south, when there's hemorrhaging of skills, but you stayed the course. You are able to take SAFARI into its next era. Today we are celebrating the Diamond Jubilee. You know, when you are 60, they say you're celebrating your Diamond Jubilee. If I had to use the metaphor of cricket, is that we are 60 runs not out. We're on an excellent batting wicket, and I think we are moving in the right direction. And that's only possible as a result of the exceptional contributions of the men and women who are here, the heroes and heroines who don't get to be celebrated. And I want to use the occasion of this 60th anniversary to say thank you, and thank you. I make the point all the time that my late mother, the one I referred to earlier on, she taught me 3 things that will make you successful in life. So I'm not about to impose that on you, but I know it has worked on me. The first thing is to say, I don't know. Science is anchored on the ability of humanity and individuals to accept that you don't know. And as a result of not knowing, the appetite and the urge to get to know is insatiable, and that's how you are able to move frontiers of development. And those who have studied to the level of a PhD, you get to know that the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know. One of the greatest tragedies in life is not knowing that you don't know. Wa mo tseba malome wela ka mogae o no tseba dilo ka moka gore ke mahadi ke lenyalo ke maku and now di tshwere ko pele mara wa go re motho wa fafatla ke tsebe re wa pa eng. So it's a tragedy of not knowing that you don't know. And I think that part of the advancement is this. And the second thing she taught me was to say, I'm sorry. I know it's very difficult to some of the supervisors here, but you know you'll have had encounters where you get to be reprimanded and scolded by your immediate supervisor. And then he or she gets to discover 2 or 3 days later that, yo, I was wrong. They are unlikely going to come back to you and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. They say, yeah, let's just do it. He was very wrong. But I'm just saying we'll go very far, I think, when we make those admissions, because I think that's how we're going to build the camaraderie and the kind of team spirit that you want. And then the third thing she taught me was to say thank you. So I've come here to say thank you for the tremendous work that you have done. Thank you very much to all of you. Let me also acknowledge the learners in the room. The learners are important because for us to be able to make the kind of advances that we desire, we must invest in the next generation, the next cohort of nuclear scientists. So if you come to think of how the world will develop, countries that will be achieve the ability to advance the rate or the velocity of development are countries that are going to invest in science and technology. So I'm talking about velocity. I'm talking velocities, both speed and direction. I'm talking, no, I use this language here because I'm in the midst of scientists. So it's just the speed and direction of development. The direction must be in the right path so that you are able to accommodate everyone and advance the interest of humanity. But the speed is going to be phenomenal. I mean, we can see how the Chinese have been able to leapfrog other nations. I mean, if you had to trace back how China has achieved the kind of monumental and almost inconceivable economic advances, trace it back 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it was not featuring on the map of the top 10, 20 advanced economies in the world. Today, they are number 2. And I can tell you by the time the Safari ends its current license of 2030, the Chinese will be the most advanced. You look at the deep seek, the artificial intelligence, the rate at which they are developing it, they are going to distinguish themselves, and they are going to be distinguishable as a result of those investments. So the learners are here. I was having a conversation with some of them, and I'm encouraged that they want to move in the right direction. They are pursuing science, and that's why they are here. And I had to ask a few of them what is it that they want to study. And of course, I was impressed that I met 2 who wants to study civil engineering. Civil engineering is important because everything we build remains standing. These ones of mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, our going oh, okay, no, it's fine. So our things remain standing. So I really want to congratulate you. And I really also congratulate Loiso and the leadership of NEXA for having taken a decision to say that we are going to partner with the schools and make it possible that we provide them safe passage to realize their ambitions. I just want to mention 4 things that are emblematic of science. And those are found in the, if you like, the genesis of Safari and the DNA of Safari, if I were to use those terms. 4 things. The first one is that science transcends politics. Let me repeat myself. Science transcends politics because ours is evidence-led. Ours is on the basis of logic and reason and how you arrive at a conclusion. But in the South African context, it's important that I make the point that Safari, because it's 60 years of age, 1965, 18 of March, that's when it was commissioned, were under very difficult and different political circumstances. So the political architecture of this country was completely different from the time. But the scientific luminaries of the time, they ignored the politics and focused on the science. And the reason why Mr. Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Association, is able to deliver a message of support, it's not necessarily out of his own choosing, but just an admission of the kind of progress and the stewardship of those that came before Loyiso and many other CEOs, and their pioneering nature in that they made sure that they elevate the importance of science, and they were resolving challenges of the time, so we have a responsibility ourselves to take it further. Of course, in contemporary politics, 1994, a seminal moment, the liquidation of a system that is universally categorized as a crime against humanity, the rise of a democratic project. So what we are doing now, we are democratizing the space. If it were possible for us to turn back the hands of time, I was disappointed that the video did not reflect on the origins of Safari so that we have a much better appreciation of the point I want to make. If this kind of occasion was held to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Safari, the 20th anniversary of Safari, the 30th anniversary of Safari, the demographics will be completely different. The people in this room will not be in this room because of the color of your skin. But what Safari has done and those pioneers, they undermined an apartheid government with the victory of the democratic project. They did not abandon the scientific enterprise. They continued with it. Tomorrow I stand before you, all I see is South Africans. Black, Indian, coloreds, whites, you mentioned them, were all in one room. Men and women. And I'm sure the demographics will be predominantly white and almost exclusively male. But today I stand before you, we've got young girls from a township like Atteridgeville, a rural village like Haramokopa. They've got an ambition and they've achieved that ambition to be nuclear scientists thanks to the work that has been done by our forebears, those who invested in that science. And then the second learnings from Safari is its ability to ensure that it sees opportunity in the face of adversity. So that's what science does. Those of you who are taught engineering, you know, we're told that we are trained to resolve problems. Our primary existence is the resolution of humanity's problems and the advancement of the ability of humanity. So what science has illustrated is the ability of science to make sure that the country is self-sufficient under those political conditions. What are those conditions? South Africa was experiencing a period of exclusion. Of course, some of it is advocated by those who came before us for genuine reasons, that for as long as there is a significant amount of the population, and in demographic terms, the demographic majority is excluded, there is no need for South Africa to be part of the community of nations. So what did the scientists do? The scientists made sure that they are self-sufficient. They don't rely on other sovereign jurisdiction for purposes of the nuclear fuel cycle. They are able to produce it themselves. And that's the self-sufficiency I'm referring to. Of course, the context is completely different, but I'm talking about the genesis of science and what science seeks to do, and I think that's something that we can learn from Safari. And then the third experience of Safari is that science has got an ability to determine new frontiers of human development. So a point was made, I'm not sure whether it's the DG or someone who came before me, to say that we account for, here you account for 20% of medical isotopes that are responsible for the detection and curing of diseases like cancer. And now we're talking about atoms for peace. So an admission by the International Atomic Energy Association that we can repurpose our conception of nuclear to ensure that it resolves humanity's problems and it helps in its advancement. That we are contributing to the treatment of cancers in this world. You might not know we have saved lives of millions of people. It is thanks to the work that you are doing. And now we are entering a new era. On the front of nuclear to electricity, we know that the small modular reactors are the future. So we know that they can be factory fabricated. We know that they can be modular installed, and we know that they are agile. And we know that the Chinese, they are advancing, the Russians are advancing in that area, and in fact, this is going to constitute the future. So it will be a height of folly of us, the highest form of ignorance, if we're to undermine the ability of science and nuclear to shape how economies and sovereign jurisdictions see of themselves and the opportunity they see going into the future. So it's at the cutting edge of human development. It's going to democratize energy access. The lady from the Nuclear Association makes an important point for those of you who didn't know. We've got 1.4 billion people on the continent. 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity. You and I, the only time is when there's load shedding. And I apologize, we will resolve it, don't worry. No, engineer, we'll resolve it, don't worry, we'll resolve it. But I'm just saying there's 600 million people on the continent who don't have access to electricity. And some studies suggest that 500,000 women on the continent suffer early death, premature death, as a result of not having access to electricity. Those of you who grew up in the villages, as I stand here, I mean, I can relate to you. You know, when I have a sense of how a ruralitarian looks like. A ruralitarian is someone who grew up in the rural areas. That does not make you less of a scientist, but it says that you are resilient. Under conditions of adversity, you are able to make it. But you know, those of you who grew up in those areas, there's this thing, a thatch hut. In Limpopo, you have a thatch hut that is a kitchen, and then there's a thatch hut where we sleep. Of course, we have modernized, we have grown, as a result of the victory of the democratic project. So when you grew up, if you are older than 40 years, and you grew up in those areas, I don't know how it's done, Honorable Mbata, in KZN, but I suggest it's almost the same. So when you go into this hut where we cook, so you know we use wood. When I visit my grandmother, the first thing she does when I get into Kastageni, what we call kamushen, in the yard, to use it doesn't really describe what I want to say. What I know is that the closest chicken to her is in danger, the days are numbered, so the hours are numbered. So she grabs it, and then she goes inside the kitchen. And she'll be there like for 30 minutes, you know. And there's just smoke and smoke. I would go in there I couldn't stand the smoke for 1 minute, but she does that for 30 minutes cooking. She died at the age of about 101. She has done that most of her life. And in many instances, she'll be carrying someone on her back. It would be my mother. And then she will be cooking there. Imagine the amount of exposure to the smoke. And that's the 500,000 premature deaths. So how will a continent industrialize without electricity? You can't imagine sending people 5 kilometers to go and dig for gold when the shaft is operated by solar only. So when there's inclement weather, they won't come back. We'll wait for the sun to come back. But you need to use these technologies together with other sources, clean forms, solar, battery, and the like, to modernize and advance. So the point I'm making is that for us to deal with the 500,000 annual premature death of women on the continent, to electrify the continent, to industrialize the continent, nuclear is the answer. So nuclear is going to be the backbone of our energy offering, not just in South Africa, but on the continent. And in fact, it becomes more opposite when you imagine the fact that the primary mineral that we use for purposes of nuclear is uranium. Ourselves and Namibians, we have significant deposits of uranium. The Witwatersrand Basin, Namakwaland, you find those resources. So we're sitting on top of wealth, and yet we're poor. Tomorrow or sometime next week, we're going to have our own fights as MPs on the budget. You would not have those fights if we're going to exploit our natural endowments, beneficiate the home, create jobs, and grow the economy. Then Minister Godongwana has got a different problem. Minister Godongwana doesn't have a problem of balancing the books, so there's expenditure that is growing, there's revenue that is contracting. He says the nearest place I can get it, I think of that. But if we're growing this economy, his problem will be different because he'll be having so much money, he wouldn't know where to spend it. And I want to repeat that nuclear will be part of the answers to resolve the South African question and ensure that we are able to advance this. And then the other fourth area about the SAFARI, it's about the fact that it has democratized access. So I just grew up here in Atteridgeville. So the only relationship I had with Pelindaba was twofold. The first one was, as I was growing up, those of you who know Atteridgeville, there's a place called Beirut, that side of Old Cemetery, which was the centerpiece, the epicenter of resistance. In per capita terms, the number of MK combatants in this country, they are from my area, including my own brother. All we knew was that as when you listen to the older ones, much younger, you'll eavesdrop, they will tell you, once we can hit that nuclear, we're finished with the system. But I couldn't have a relation. What is that? Oh, Pelindaba, that's what we call it. We must hit Pelindaba. But all we know is that it was fortified. So that was my first experience of it. The second experience of Pelindaba was when I was a ward councillor, and my ward covered this area before the new demarcations, Commemorative. And then some environmentalists came to advocate for the PBMR to be closed, and the fact that Pelindaba must be closed. Of course, your passage to communities is ward councillor. And then they told me we need to stand up resistance and all of that. And then all they offer is that let's give the poor donations, blankets, and the like. But you needed to uncover what is it that these people stand for. Much later, I must admit, at the time I didn't know. Essentially, they were diametrically opposed to the advancement of this country. That they were sitting counter opposite to the sovereign interest of this country. Anyone that wants to undermine nuclear, its utility and prolific contribution to the economy of this country and humanity, stands opposed to the advancement of the interest of humanity. That was my second encounter. The third encounter is a more joyous one. After I was appointed, I was invited to come to Pelindaba. I noticed this is a big complex. When I was with Loiso, we moved there. He says, no, we're going to another building. Can I walk? He says, no, it's 5 kilometers. Are we still in the same precinct? He says, yes, we are in the same precinct. But for the youngsters who are here, and that's why it's important that we acknowledge them, that we have expanded the floor of opportunities. I like math and science. I make the point in my private life, I go and speak to youngsters at schools. I tell them that the most enjoyable and the easiest subjects I've ever studied, there are two. It's math and physics. Yeah, when I'll pass it. You remember when you were growing up, they tell us metric is ni matras. Hey, no ni wanna go. Oh, sorry, I'm in a formal. No, I apologize. I apologize. Marageta address vile ni nyoko ke bolele be ambeno. Happens ku assess na lo tsama. Agere before ke sintaka mo ke process and a toya ka ke kholo, so it's running. So the processing capacity is getting tired. So when I was spending. So for those who can hear what I was saying, I'm saying that nuclear is the future. So the point I'm. So as I conclude, I want to say that the democratic state that I represent has got its own limitations. And one of the principal limitations is to relinquish nuclear as a possibility to resolve the problems of this country. Having invested something upwards of 15 billion rands, whatever the figure is, we just abandoned it. Having invested in the pebble bed modular reactor that Dave was referring to. And of course, science and nature doesn't allow for a vacuum. Others have seized that opportunity. I make the point very recently, members of parliament, I went to visit Washington. I was invited by a grouping that originates from here. They are at the center of the resurgence of the nuclear industry in the US. 25 kilometers outside the capital city of US, Washington, I met with this grouping. We are about 13 in that meeting. That meeting, I tell you, could have been conducted in Afrikaans for it not being just one American who was present. Having grown up in Pretoria and Atteridgeville, I understand Afrikaans very well. Ek praat sever Afrikaans. What is the point I'm making? 3 observations. It is the big utility, energy-intensive users, especially the ones on data centers, that are the biggest investor in that company. But the 3 aspects that will interest you. First, I said that the meeting could have been conducted in Africa. Why? All of those in the meeting were PhD holders. All of them, with no exception, were educated at the University of Stellenbosch and University of South Africa. All of them, with no exception, worked on the PBMR. All of them, with no exception, worked at NEXA. And the democratic government closed that, and they left not because they are unpatriotic, because they are seeking for opportunities. You can go to the Gulf countries, they are building. South African engineers are there, trained by our own money in our own institutions. We have relinquished that. I am saying to you, that is the end. A democratic government will invest in nuclear. We have agreed in the budget that one I know won't touch it. We will resolve other issues. But we are going to give NEXA 1.4 billion rand to restart the nuclear program. The allocation is in the budget. Once you wake up and say, you hear budget approved, just know 1.2 billion is coming your way. Yes. In my language, how do I explain that in English? I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. But I'm just saying the democratic government is going that route. And the second thing, Honorable Mbatha, colleagues, is investment in these youngsters. The majority of them will be found in rural communities. That the end is bright, it is glorious. The intervening period is dark and bitter, but finds its glory in acts of struggle. We have to invest in those. I am a PhD holder, so that thing I must acknowledge. It was a speech by Oliver Tambo on the occasion on the burial of Joe Kabi. So don't say I stole and not I plagiarized. So I had to repeat what I said, because I've got an intellectual obligation to acknowledge those who said. But we are going to invest in these youngsters and make it possible for them to succeed irrespective of the color. But we know the majority of them will be from black, poor communities, and invest in the girl child to ensure that we are able to broaden these opportunities. So if you look at geopolitics today, it is framed around the question of energy. And South Africa must place itself front center of those conversations. We will not enter the Champions League of the fights because we are in Motsepe League. Hey, Apos Kanoloelan. Uno tla uli team ibaro Kaizer Chiefs. Uno tsamgale Sundowns retlano better 4-1. So wela mrawa no. My apologies. My apologies once more. No, I do apologize to all of you for using the reference of K. I apologize for telling the truth. I really do want to apologize to all of you. But what is the bigger point I'm making? The bigger point I'm making is that geopolitics is fought on the energy front. So we must position ourselves in a smart way. As they say in boxing, you must box clever. Once we enter the arena of nuclear fuel cycle, these major superpowers, they will dislike each other, but they will love us. And then we'll create the jobs. We'll grow the South African economy. I've committed a mistake. I forgot to read the speech. I really do want to apologize. I forgot to read the speech, and thank you very much for those who prepared the speech. It's a wonderful speech. I forgot to read. No, I'm very serious. I forgot to read it. Let me just say something, maybe I can get, oh yes. No, I apologize, and I know when I get to the office, I'm in trouble. So we're going the route of the multi-purpose reactor. So that's the investment we're making. Dave, the board, and in particular, Loiso must go and find the partners. 1.2 billion rand is insignificant. It's not going to get us to where we want to be. But we know the national fiscals, the sovereign balance sheet is constrained. So we must find bespoke financing instruments. We must find partners who will not just bring the money, but will bring their technological know-how. And when we bring it together with ours, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. So 1 + 1 is not 2, 1 + 1 is 3. That's the point I'm making. And that's what Loiso and the team will do. As I conclude, I want to say the following. We will not call it an MPR. We must Christian it. We must give it a name. I'm not sure how many of you know what SAFARI stands for. Yeah, Gabona, you don't know what SAFARI stands for. But we are going to give it a name. And then we are going to run a popular contest. Because South Africans must own Nexa. South Africans must know what nuclear is. South Africans must know what these possibilities are. And we are going to run that contest on what can we call it, so that South African can embrace it and they know that it's part of theirs. So thank you very much for this. We wish you well. It's an occasion of celebration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Makgokgo. Thank you for those words. Thank you for the commitment in terms of money and resources, the commitment to nuclear, but I think for most of us here, we understand that once we leave this room out in the public, people tend to interchange the first 2 letters of nuclear, and nuclear then becomes unclear. So there's a need for us to capacitate, there's a need for us to share, there's a need for us to raise awareness. But thank you for those words, thank you for the challenge, thank you for reminding us of the legacies and the stories, that science has become this driver of development. And when we look back, we can see how science has become the agent of change as we've seen transformation through the activity. So thank you for those reminders and thank you for the encouragement. We're now going to get, before we get to the vote of thanks, we now get to the part, because this is a celebration, we need to cut the cake. I do know that you are a civil engineer, but unfortunately, I'm not going to trust you alone to cut the cake. So I'm forced to invite more people to join you, just in case cake cutting is not your thing. So I'm going to invite back on the stage the Minister, together with the Deputy Minister, Ms. Samantha Graham-Maree, And then if we have Ms. Queenie Mvana, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, together with Mr. David Nichols, the chairperson of the NEXA board, and then also the GCO, Mr. Loyiso Chiabashe, to join us on stage. And we formally cut the cake. For those of you who've never been to Safari-1, this, of course, is what the building looks like. So today you can see it presented to you as a cake. And if you are lucky, you might even be able to eat the cake later on. So we're going to cut the cake. Then we're going to have the vote of thanks. Then, of course, we're going to go outside. We're going to enjoy lunch. There's a photo booth that you can use in terms of taking pictures. But you would have seen that on the stage, there are a number of musical instruments. And I promise you, I'm not the one who's going to play them. And I promise you, you do not want to leave before you see who's going to step in behind those instruments. So let's welcome our dignitaries on stage. I do not know how they're going to do this. There's one knife, many hands, and one cake. So how many dignitaries does it take to cut a cake? You are about to see. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say happy birthday to Safari-1, 60 years of nuclear excellence. I don't know, normally at a wedding you have the groom and the bride and they take the cake and they push it in each other's. You're not gonna force feed anybody? Should I not tempt you? All right. So thank you very much. There we have it, 60 years, Safari-1 contributing to nuclear excellence, and what an amazing opportunity that we have here today. All right, so we have one last item before we step into lunch, and that is the vote of thanks, and that will be delivered by the Deputy Minister. So let me just quickly try and introduce her to you. She holds an LLB degree from the University of Unisa and serves on boards of local charities, including the Giant Flag Trust and Owl House Foundation. At heart, she's an entrepreneur in the private sector, and she became active in local politics in the town of Aberdeen in the Eastern Cape in 2009. She served as a councillor in the Beyers Nudia local municipality from 2011 until 2019, when she was elected to Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 3rd of July 2024 then, she was appointed as the Deputy Minister of Electricity and Energy. Your hands and mine for the one, the only, stepping up in red shoes, Samantha Graham Murray.
I'm going to have to get some clearance here. So before I start off, it is my absolute privilege to thank the program director. I'm sure we can all agree he has been absolutely outstanding. You've definitely missed your calling in life, so if you get tired of nuclear, we've got a job for you. But on behalf of everybody here, allow me to please say thank you very much to the program director. Program director. You must know how difficult it is to follow the minister on a speech. He is just phenomenal. So it is such a privilege to be here today, especially when your technology doesn't work. That's always great. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, Minister, what a privilege it is to be here with you today. To the chairperson of the NEXA board, Mr. Dave Nichols, the CEO of NEXA, Mr. Loyiso Chiabashe. To the staff of NEXA, it wouldn't be possible without all of you. To the members of the Portfolio Committee on Energy and Electricity, Honourable Mvana, our chairperson. To His Excellency, the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Mingua. Chairpersons of boards of directors from various state-owned entities, CEOs and heads of departments, senior managements of the departments, distinguished participants and delegates, it's very, very hot up here. I'm just sharing that with you. It gives me great pleasure to have spent this day with everyone here to celebrate the South African Fundamental Atomic Research Installation 1. So for those who missed it, that is what SAFARI stands for. I'll repeat it, the South African Fundamental Atomic Research Installation 1. Hopefully we get an easier name next time. Commonly referred to as the SAFARI-1 research reactor. At the outset, I'd like to extend my gratitude to all of you for taking the time to join us for this celebration. 60 years of service is definitely something to celebrate. As we conclude this wonderful celebration, marking the 60th anniversary of our first South African research reactor, we've been able to reflect on the incredible journey we've had over the past 6 decades. What is absolutely clear is that our research reactor has not only advanced scientific knowledge, but has also fostered collaboration amongst numerous institutions, both here at home and globally. This milestone is a testament to the dedication and hard work of everyone involved. We noted the remarks from previous speakers, in particular the Minister, about the legacy that has been built through this research reactor, and we're all looking forward to the bright future that lies ahead with the introduction of the multi-purpose reactor. However, SAFARI-1 is going to be a tough act to follow. This old girl, and I can say that because it's older than me, this old girl still produces nuclear medicine that is used in about 10 million medical procedures in more than 60 countries every year. The work done by the SAFARI-1 team saves millions of lives every year, and for that we honor and thank you all. I'd like to thank the IAEA DG, Mr. Rafael Grossi, for always making himself available to send us messages of support, having done so previously at the nuclear summit that the Minister held last year in September. I had the privilege to meet DG Grossi last year in Vienna when I was there, and I know what an ardent supporter he is of the South African nuclear program. I'm sure we can all agree that the SAFARI-1 research reactor has been well maintained and managed over the years. However, it is clear that going forward, this research reactor will have to be replaced with a modern multi-purpose reactor if we are going to remain an influential player in the international nuclear space. Earlier in his remarks, the Honourable Minister Ramokgopa alluded to the need for the new MPR to be given a name. I have no doubt that this will generate much excitement and potentially introduce a whole new generation to the field of nuclear science. Again, let's have something more exciting than what SAFARI is. We have also noted the progress that has been made so far, especially in the procurement of elements of the design concept, and we're looking forward to this exciting project unfolding. The new reactor will ensure continued medical isotope production and support research in material science, neutron radiography, and nuclear fuel development. Let me take this opportunity to thank the NECSA GCEO and your team for the incredible job you're all doing. I wish you all good luck and continued success in furthering the work of NECSA, working together with the Department of Energy and Electricity. I further extend my appreciation to the team that worked so hard in organizing this incredible event, and I think we can give them all a huge round of applause. And the team were from both NECSA and the Department of Electricity and Energy and Electricity. You really all did outdo yourselves. Thank you to all our stakeholders who supported us in this event. Your support is certainly an indication that we can count on all of you as future partners, collaborators, and friends. I always say, and the GCEO will back me up on this, that NECSA is one of South Africa's best kept secrets. Hopefully, after today, the rest of the world can join us in celebrating the excellence that is NECSA. Happy 60th anniversary, SAFARI. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Graham Maria. All right, so that brings us to the end of the formalities. As we said, lunch is available outside. Remember, you need a wristband. If you see somebody who looks as if they're not going to eat, but they have a wristband, just take it off them. And let's enjoy the food. Let's make sure that you take in enough calories, because after lunch, we've got some live entertainment. We want you to step back into this room ready to let down your hair. If you looked in the mirror this morning and discovered that you do not have hair, don't worry, we can provide you with a wig, but you need to shake what your mother gave you. So we're gonna break for lunch. We will be back. Just if we could just hold on for 2 seconds before you leave, just this one announcement.
Please remain seated. Please remain seated. Next employees, you have behaved yourselves so well to this point. We would like you to continue in that manner. Please remain inside, remain seated. We will come to you and take you where you're going to get your lunch accordingly. Please, we are pleading with you. Nobody must go out of the tent except in a certain manner that we will announce. For now, we can allow the VIPs to go out.
All right, thanks for that. So the VIPs will leave earlier or first. That is just for them to be in the sun first. So you guys can still sit a little bit, relax, enjoy the shade. And then the VIPs, you are invited to go to the VIP tent. That is where your lunch will be served. And then the rest of you will be directed to the venue to enjoy yours. So please make sure that you're back at around 2 o'clock for some brilliant entertainment.
Happy, 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 happy! Hip, hip! Hip, hip! Happy Safari!